My father came to the United States from Haiti when he was 16 years old. And he literally, when he came here when he was a kid, he would tell me that he literally believed that the streets were paved with gold in the United States. So he arrived in New York City at Ellis Island in the 1970s, and he found out that the streets weren't paved with gold, but they were paved with concrete, but they were also paved with opportunity. And so he took advantage of that opportunity. My grandfather in Haiti went from being a private to a colonel, which is unheard of, even in Haiti. And he became a man of sort of legendary principle in the country, legendary values and legendary courage in Haiti. And at that time, in the 60s, Haiti was, in the 60s and early 70s, Haiti was dominated by a dictator named Baby Doc. And Baby Doc was ruthless, was a ruthless dictator. And my grandfather stood up to Baby Doc and wouldn't do some of the things that he wanted my grandfather to do. So that led to my grandfather and his 6 children, which included my father, and my grandmother coming to the United States. But my father's father was the kind of man that, you know, when he walked in the room, everybody sort of sat up a little straighter, stood a little bit taller. He was that kind of man. And he instilled those values in my father. So when my father got here, he learned English in just a couple of years. He went to Rutgers University, graduated in less than 4 years, and went on to have an extremely successful career. And in 1981, my dad married my mother, which is probably the smartest decision. Right? And they've been married ever since, and they're really the bedrock of my life, and I look up to them so much. This morning I called them on the way here, and every time I call them, they're always together, and they're always on speakerphone. I don't know why, but that's what they do. Their love that they have for each other is still palpable. My mother grew up in the largest housing project in New Jersey. It's Prince Street Projects in Newark, New Jersey. And her father was the son of a sharecropper in rural South Carolina, in Georgetown, South Carolina. And that's actually where my family came from Africa, came to South Carolina on the American side and stayed there for generation after generation. My grandfather had a 3rd grade education, and the reason that he had a 3rd grade education is because his father, as a sharecropper, had acquired quite a bit of land and ended up owning that land. And some men came one day and said, that's just too much land for a black man to have. So they took that land. So they made my grandfather work on that land that his father originally had. As you can imagine, my grandfather had too much pride for that, so like many African Americans in the 30s, he left and fled to the north. And that's how my parents got to, my mother got up to Newark, New Jersey. But my grandfather, with his 3rd grade education, was honest and true. He was a man that woke up every single day, worked extremely hard, raised 8 kids, had a 70-year marriage, and was really the kind of man that America's been built on. These are the men that shaped my story. When I was growing up, my father he was a naturalized citizen before I was born. And in growing up, he would do these speeches. When you become a naturalized citizen, there's a large ceremony. You'll have a keynote speaker, and they'll talk about what it means to be American. And my dad would drag me to these speeches, and at the time, I didn't understand why. But he would go from place to place and give these speeches. And I'd never then or never since heard anyone talk about the country that way, with that sort of love that he has for America. And it really shaped the way I saw the country. He talked about it the way that Reagan talked about it, that America is a shining city on a hill, a beacon of freedom. One day when I was 11 or 12, playing with my brother in the room, sort of just there, my dad walks in the room and sort of randomly says, would you ever serve your country in the military? And I said, no, because I don't want to die. And he said, you know, don't ever be afraid to stand up for your country, stand up for what you believe in. Little did I know the effect that even that small conversation would have on me. When I was a sophomore at Morehouse College, September 11th happened. And I remember crowding around, in the middle of campus there's a bell. And for the first time, I think since the 1960s, we rang that bell. And we all talked about what it meant to be an American. And I remember that day, I pledged to myself that I would serve the country. And I did. And in 2004, I joined the military. I joined the Army. And I guess when I really knew I was in it, when I really knew I had become a soldier, there's a ceremony on this place called Honor Hill, and it's in Fort Benning, Georgia. And so at the end of basic training to become an infantryman, you do a 25-mile force march with a pack on, and at the end you climb up this hill, and you don't know it at the time, but when you get close to the top of the hill, there's several hundred old infantrymen, men that have served the country, young and old, clapping for you to get up to the top of the hill. And when you get up to the top, you drink out of this grog, and it's your official celebration to become an infantryman. And this is a ceremony that has happened in this country for nearly 200 years. And I did that, and found myself, over the course of that 5 years that I served in Iraq and Afghanistan, I found myself completing nearly 300 combat missions. I was shot at, blown up, and really transformed by my experiences there. We all were, all the men that I served with. And during that time, I was able to fight with and serve with really some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life, from every corner of this nation. Men who, through battle, became my brothers, men who became my family members. We fought together, we cried together, we suffered together, and each one of us pledged to ourselves the same thing that all soldiers pledge to themselves. There's a soldier, his name was Martin Treptow, and in 1917 he signed up for the military, volunteered for World War I. And in 1918 he was killed in battle, delivering a message between battalions. And on his body was a diary, and in that diary were inscribed these words: "America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure. I will do my utmost and fight cheerfully, as if the issue of the entire struggle depended on me alone. I am a Republican because I believe that we as Americans have spent over 2 centuries uniting around one flag and one Constitution. I am a Republican because I believe that there is no greater source of ingenuity and freedom in the world today than the American people. I'm a Republican because I know that we should not throw away the values of our forefathers, but instead we should celebrate them. I am a Republican because I believe that Americanism and not globalism must be our credo. I'm a Republican because I believe in the values of individual liberty, freedom, and godly service that have been at the heart of this country since 1776. The Republican Party is the party of Lincoln and the party of Reagan. When those who don't think like me say that we want to go back to an era that was bad, that was a terrible time, we reject that. We want to honor the men and women who sacrificed, saved, worked, and fought to make America great. America's great because of every day from 1776 until right now. It's great because we can stand on the giants of men and on the shoulders of giants. I'm the son of an immigrant. I am the grandson of a colonel and a sharecropper. I'm the descendant of slaves, and I stand before you never more proud of my country than I am today. I believe I'm a Republican because we will always stand for the anthem, we will honor our flag, and we will never quit fighting for the values that have made us the greatest civilization in the history of the world. That's why I'm a Republican. Thank you.